three main themes came out of everything that was shared. One began with timeliness, the timeliness of this series in their lifespan because of what they've been dealing with. This whole series is really timely. The other thing was authenticity and how it even, in some people, it showed them how authentic they were in their prayer life. With others, it actually was a work in them taking away all the fakeness of trying to have the right things to say when they pray out loud around other people. And they learned how to be authentic in their prayer language. And the other main thing, authentic, timely, and yes, the uniqueness of everybody's contact. We had so many different ways. You had like half the group, or a couple people out of the group talked about how they journal and how they learned how to journal and how it's been transformative for them in learning how to journal. And then some of us, we never journaled before, or that's not something that we do. But to be able to hear that and how it works for one person, whereas with someone else, they have a totally different way of praying, totally different way of communicating with God. That was really eye-opening for us too. So yeah, all of those varieties.
Good. Good job.
Yeah, so our group, we talked about a lot of things, really. So I think a lot of us talked, especially the two teachings that really came to light the most, that we talked about the most, were Jen, and really showing that, hey, well, sometimes you don't have the words, and that's okay, and just like the comfort of that. And then also JD with talking and bringing in some of the older prayers and, chants and things like that. And so yeah, just talking about how there's life on any of those things, right? That there's life on chants that come from different, cultures from our own, from different points in history, and that can be life-giving as long as your heart is connected to God in the midst of it. But then also, for those who, maybe have some history with different things, like, I remember I taught in a Catholic church for a while, and there were some, phrases, some parts of prayers that I just couldn't say. But in the midst of it, just saying, hey, God, I want to connect with you. I want to stand in alignment with the pieces that I can. I think another really fun thing that we talked about was, it's like when you think you know what God's going to say, and like sitting in the midst of that, and sometimes making mistakes because, with what you thought God was saying, rather than actually listening to hear what God was going to truly say to you. But then on other times, when like you knew exactly what God was going to say, and God did say it, but that God came with this other spirit that brought this comfort, or a different mentality than what you were thinking He was going to bring. Anything else that I should share?
Time and space.
Yes. So like just having that talking. So we talked about like setting aside time, like making that time and space. Like there are times that you might do that praying without ceasing, that it's sort of in the background, but that there's something special about taking a moment away. And, if that means, stepping out and going into a different room from anyone else, shutting down all of the distractions and just taking a moment to be with God and really listen and receive things from Him. That was another, thing that we definitely talked about. And yeah, some of the differences between praying just for that intimacy, between you and the Lord, and then also with intercession, like each has a different flavor, but both are really valuable and important. So I think that's the big things.
All right.
All right.
We have a team over here.
Yay! I love it.
Okay, so yes, we had such a powerful discussion, and we had some very powerful voices. So I didn't want to be the only one talking. I wanted to be able to, especially loved, we had two younger people in our group, and, well, Gabby too. But we had some. And I especially loved what they shared. So I'm going to turn it over to Abel, and I'm going to let him share what prayer means.
So what prayer means to me is that everyone has its own different way. It's not a true meaning. And for me, that people like think that, oh, it matters what I say, like, thank you, God. No, it matters to me that you say it with meaning. Because you can say stuff without meaning anything, and it won't count for anything.
That's good.
And I love how prayer is example because everyone has their own definition of prayer. Like some you have to pray quietly, some you have to pray while kneeling down. And everyone is different, and that's what I love about it. How everyone has a different opinion about it. And that's all.
We also spoke a little bit about how everybody's in their own progress, right? So we all kind of shared our own where we are with prayer right now and what it was before and how this series has changed us and what it's meant for our life, right? And how it's changed throughout our life. So that's another thing that we have to keep in mind, that same what Abel said, there's not one way to do it, right? There's also different processes where we are, and we just have to take the time to listen and kind of let God guide us and where it is that he needs us to go next in this process. Did I forget anything else?
Listening.
Oh, yes. So we also have to get better at listening. I shared my experience that I wasn't really very good at listening before, or at least I thought prayer was just, I say all the words and God hears me, but no, it's really about hearing what he has to say to us as well. It's like a conversation, truly. That's what I got out of this whole thing. It's a conversation with God. That comes from the heart, right? You have to speak to him from the heart. That's where the meaning comes from your heart. Yeah, that's it.
And that's it.
Awesome. Loved hearing from the young people.
Come on. Right.
All right, so our group focused our discussion on how our perspective on prayer has changed, either through the series or just in our own walk with God. And a lot of the things that everyone shared is already touched on in the different groups. Learning to listen, that it's a two-way street with God. It's not one way. And then related to that, being more conversational with God. And then also sometimes especially for those of us that grew up in a more traditional church, there's a way of prayer, whether it's yelling or praying nonstop in your prayer closet, that sort of thing, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it could also inadvertently lead us to believe that because I'm busy or I have to I have things going on in my life that therefore I'm a bad Christian, but learning that, even through the busyness of life, that, you can still commune with God.
Come on.
For some people that may actually be the optimal way to commune with God and being okay with that.
So good.
And the one thing I'll leave with a note of encouragement for the ladies in the audience that have been praying for your boyfriends or husbands, because there are a couple of us in our group that admitted that the only reason that they came to church in the first place was because their girlfriend or wife dragged them, but over time they couldn't help but fall in love with God. So keep praying, women.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate hearing from everybody. I think there's just so much value in hearing where each group went and what they talked about. So we're going to wrap up with communion. Here's what I want to do. I'm not going to lead us corporately. I feel like we have been doing a really good job of talking about how we can be different, how we can all be different, how we can all, we don't have to look the same, think the same, sound the same. But the one thing that we do have in common is coming to the table together, and that every single person is welcome. And I just want to do that in our groups that we just shared our hearts with, and that we just do that together in community as family in a little bit more of an intimate way, just to feel connected and just to share in the beauty of just coming to the table together. So if somebody wants to lead your group, that's great. If you want to just sit quietly and take communion on your own, that's okay too. I just want you to feel, to be close to people, to feel connected, and then I will officially just dismiss us.
Come on.
Yo.
Why don't you leave?
Oh.
You remember that role of sacrifice for us to recognize, and that this is a reminder that Jesus gave his life for us.
Lord Jesus, thank you for the sacrifice you made on the cross for us. And as you said in that upper room, come on, your disciples,
For your body.
and you split the bread. You said, eat, this do in remembrance of me. And we take this later, and we eat in remembrance of you. And then you pass the cup, and you say, drink, this is my blood, which I have sacrificed for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
All right, we're going to be officially dismissed this morning. Thank you for joining us. I love where these discussion groups are going. And just have a blessed week. There's a little bit more coffee in the back, I think. So take a cup to go on your way out and have a wonderful week. We will not see you next week. We will see you the first week of December, Advent.